This week's dream car is a 1932 Packard 903 Dual Cowl Phaeton, and it's ironic that we're shooting this in front of the house of James Livingston. James Livingston was a customer of the Packard Corporation, but he was also a personal friend of James Ward Packard. Now, it was only the rich and famous that could afford these cars. You have to remember, a Model A at the time was selling for $500. This car was $5,000. But with a 142-inch wheelbase and a 384-inch cubic inch straight motor, the thing was powerful, it was beautiful, it was everything that the rich and famous wanted. To give you an idea of the sex appeal of this car, Jean Harlow had bought one of these brand new, the famous blonde bombshell. She bought it in 1933. Why in 33 is she buying a 32? Well, the Depression was in full swing. Only the rich and famous could afford these cars, but it was reported Jean Harlow was seen all over Hollywood, blonde hair flowing with never the top up. She enjoyed being seen, and in that era, the rich and famous wanted to be seen. Don't mistake a dual cowl with your grandfather's Model A rumble seat. This is not a rumble seat. A dual cowl is just that, a separate windscreen, a separate cowl. In order to gain access to the back, you had to lift up the cowl itself, open the door, and now you can see it's actually luxurious. The passengers of this car were in the same sort of comfort as the drivers or the front seat passenger. These cars were spectacular cars to look at, so let's take one for a drive and see how it runs. One of the first things you notice, or should I say you don't notice, is the car is actually running. It's super quiet, and that's because of the flathead motor. But as you pull away, you realize that the 384-inch motor makes all sorts of torque, and it's a real joy to drive. You barely need first gear. You could probably pull up this hill in third gear. One of the other things that is noticeable right away is how smooth the ride is. Now you have a hand control down here that actually lets you adjust the stiffness of the ride. Imagine that. Most of today's race cars barely have that. The other thing is this was not an era of throwaway cars. These cars were built to last. They have a lubricating system. With the push of a lever, it actually lubricates every piece of moving suspension on the car. And as you look out over the windscreen, you realize what a big car this is. It's the same chassis as the 12-cylinder. This Super 8 is quite a magnificent car to drive. The other thing as you're driving, you realize is the windshield rake is very low. Cars today, like the Prowler, are trying to achieve the same look as Packard had in 1932 with the real rakish low windshield. What a spectacular car to drive. For a car that weighs 2.5 tons, you'd think it'd be a real bear to stop, but this thing stops surprisingly well. The reason for that is it's got a mechanical brake with a vacuum assist. It almost drives like today's power brakes. Another fallacy about these older cars is that you can't take them out for a drive. Well, here we are on the country roads doing 50 miles an hour. The thing doesn't overheat, the car doesn't wander. It's truly a joy to drive. What a truly elegant car to drive. And pulling up to a house like this in a 903 Packard, you must have known you've arrived. Now the beauty of this car is it really isn't a restored car. It's one of the few original cars. It was updated 25 years ago. They refurbished the paint, they redid the interior, the chrome, and they rebuilt the motor. And obviously this car runs and drives like brand new. The quality of the paint isn't perfect, but it's gorgeous still. The chrome is shiny. The car is one of the few original great cars that hasn't been molested, never been damaged, and has a real clean history right back to day one. A car like this has to be worth $225,000.